Welcome back to the Paladins Pro Circuit. Finch and Gormizer here as we move on to Brazil. Things are exciting, if not one-sided in our very first set of the day, Gord. I think we have a more even matchup coming up here. Let's take a look at the schedule first. We're going to be looking at Tempest team up against Fatal Ambition here. Obviously, some other good matchups in Brazil coming up a little bit later, and then some good North American ones. Sanglet Flashpoint, a great one to be checking out a little bit later on. Probably going to be happening Friday as part of those extended broadcasts that we do. But this set that we're having here today between Tempest team and Fatal Ambition, here, the standings will show you these are two teams that have both struggled, Gore, so someone's got to win here despite everything being even up until this point.
That's the one benefit. Somebody is going to change their score here. Someone's going to go up from -11, but unfortunately that means for the other side, they're going to go down from -11. I'm actually kind of surprised, at least in my eyes, to see Fatal Ambition down here. And I think it just speaks more to what Brazil has been like as a region. This is the last unique matchup that they'll be having all week for Brazil, or at least this phase for Brazil. So, you know, coming into this, it's interesting to see Fatal Ambition start out, I guess, so poorly. I kind of expected a lot out of this name.
Wow, Jack Falls and Brightmarsh both banned away coming into this one. So we'll be going to Iceman's to start things off. And if this set does end up being even here, or it goes the distance, we'll be seeing some relatively interesting maps later on, I'm thinking, towards the end here of this set. So we'll be starting off here with Tempest in that first spot. I think we saw some interesting pick bans in our first set back in Europe. But I don't know, I feel like Brazil kind of does their own thing here, Gore. So yeah, we're right back to normalcy with Vivian getting banned right away.
Yeah, Brazil, it's so weird because it is very similar to North American meta most of the time, but they still have their things. Like the Moji, usually something you'd only see in Brazil. Lex has actually, started to translate away from Brazil. Like he was really big in Brazil, and now a couple of other regions, at least a few other players, are starting to pick him up and play him around. And Talus was also another one that, we saw first in Brazil this year before we started seeing him elsewhere. So there's a lot of things that they like to run. And this is one of those maps where they have that flexibility, especially when you see things like Xin banned out. Victor's always been big on this map, but Bomb King can do well, Dredge can do well. There's a lot of those niche picks that you could pull out that really could swing this map in your favor. And if Tempest are choosing to go here first, there's a reason Ice Mines is map number 3. It's usually your saving grace. If you're choosing to go there first and foremost, then you have to have something.
Yeah, and it's interesting. You mentioned the niche picks that do well here on Ice Mines. Terminus is that no longer, right? Terminus is just good in general and happens to be also very good here on Ice Mines as well. So no surprise, I don't think that Tempest end up taking this one right away. Now Fatal Ambition have a lot of good selections, right? You already mentioned the Victor. We've seen Inara be highly valued. Corvus is the last sort of single healer here left as well, with Genos taken out of there as well. So you want one of those two. So this makes some sense, I think, with Fatal Ambition to prioritize this Corvus right off the bat. But then where do they want to go from here? And it will indeed be that Victor. Not so worried about the front line just yet.
So it's weird. I think because Inara is available, so Tempest, they could do something that's unusual as of late, but would work well for them on Ice Mines. I think if you actually grab the Inara away and go Term Inara, it's maybe a little more lax when it comes down to a payload push. You might not be able to get as much done, but when it comes down to controlling the point, Fatal Ambition would have almost nothing to fight against you with. So they could try to strip that away, but I also like where their mind is at right now. I mean, Corvus Victor is very hard to answer, but Terminus, Bomb King, Grover, all three of those excel on Ice Mines. They all do well together on Ice Mines as well. There's a lot of synergy already in that 3-core pick, and at this point, I'm just going to say, if Bomb King could just have a game, it doesn't have to be a great game, as long as it's not a bad game, then this team should already start off with their foot forward, and Fatal Ambition are going to be playing catch-up.
And it's just some decent control as well here from Tempest's top 3 picks, at least when you consider the ultimate alongside it as well. Could potentially be difficult for Fatal Ambition to match it, though they pick up the Inara and the Seismic Crash about as good as it gets in that crowd control conversation. They're also going to add the Tyra here, so between the Victor and the Tyra, this is tons of damage. If you're in sight lines, expect to take a lot of damage from this draft from Fatal Ambition.
Yeah, I'm a little scared if I'm Terminus right now. I need some help to come help and alleviate the pressure. Atlas, maybe not where I would have gone, but I'm excited to see it, right? It's that area where he's, I think it was a 46% win rate here in Brazil, but I believe across all regions, he's just been subpar. Like, I mean, he's getting picked up enough. He's really a good side tank. People like him a lot on Frog Isle, but when it comes to these other maps, he's really low on the list. And I don't know how heavily I would lean towards him over something like a Rom here, which I think could be very potent, especially against like a Khan and Nara. Of course, with Khan not being locked in yet, they'd have to predict the future for that one. But there's a lot of pressure, I think, now onto this Atlas to really perform, or else things could just fall apart.
Yeah, it's really curious to me, especially with Corvus already locked in for Fatal Ambition. Tempest, if they were going to run a double front line, do you think maybe it'd make a bit more sense to grab the Inara there, right? You don't think that the Grover's going to go to the other side if they already have the Corvus? You can come back and get that a little bit later. I don't know. It does feel a bit like the priority in terms of where they took the picks is maybe a bit odd, but we'll see how it all ends up working in terms of the draft. We're going to Ice Mine to the very first map here in our Brazilian set core. And as you said, this is often the pace changer, the one to give you a breather to slow things down. So how do you like it as the opener?
You know, I actually like it. Again, when you come to Ice Mines first, I feel like you're making a statement more than anything else, right? It's just going to be unfortunate. If Tempest team get just obliterated on this map, then that's bad news overall for everybody involved. But I think they have a comp that, again, 4/5 of it are going to be really strong here. I think Khan is going to be a little shaky on Fatal Ambition, but we've seen him be incredibly successful. We've seen him be successful piloted by RC Soldier in the past, so maybe not too insane to see them pick that up. Victor, not PS1, and Headed, two names that I think were going to be very, very impressive. In fact, everybody, I said this earlier, but on Fatal Ambition, it blows my mind to see that they haven't been able to win a set. I think it just speaks to how strong those top teams in Brazil are right now that it's caused them a lot of trouble. Because these guys were, I mean, I think they were only 4th last phase, but even still, they were giving trouble to some of those top teams. So I expected to see them maybe step up a little bit harder, especially today.
Yeah, and something we really haven't had much of a chance to cover just yet is that it is just the Canessa, right, as the sniper here on this map. Now, I think you can make the argument for Tyra Victor being able to challenge those sight lines to some extent, but not quite the same as having your own Strix on the other side. So we'll see if Ganji can find some unique value here, and already making this Khan pay a little bit for poking his head out, and covering some of these sight lines the Victor Tyra are trying to use. Inside Barn, though, the Terminus Bomb King holding things down, locking a couple of members out of the site. No one has stepped on mid yet, and no kills have materialized. I say that, and Ganji finds the headshot. Headed quite appropriate as he's headed back to base. That means that on the order side here on Tempest team, they'll have a chance to move forward, and another one here from Ganji. This Canessa unmatched so far. These two backliners of the Tyra Victor are not going to be able to challenge for it.
I mean, this is just what Canessa can bring in any fight when it comes down to it. You start things off with a good headshot, and all of a sudden everything goes in your favor. It's just going to be holding on to this ground. There's not an exceedingly big win right now for Tempest team, so that 48% is solid, but look at the positioning coming down from Fatal Ambition. They can still get back in.
Yeah, but even still, they are able to deal with Ganji, and that's huge to be able to do that. Not PS1 and Headed are the ones finding some return kills, some redemption, as they unseat that sniper from their difficult positioning. In fact, pushing through Barn a little bit more to completely push back Tempest, who are now waiting on some respawns to come through before they try for the retake. And this will be interesting. If they want to push through, they only have one ultimate. Will they use it here? A couple on deck for Fatal. In particular, you'd think this Corvus one in particular could make life hard for them. Goes up into it waiting. No one shows himself. There he sees the Terminus to the side, and that does set up for one, but grounded and Headed, as well as Robson, are able to find some in return. Fatal Ambition holding on to the midpoint and not allowing Tempest to push back through.
Man, I love holding on to that ult. It was really just being placed as a deterrent, right? It was just making sure that no one's going to be able to walk onto the objective, that they'll get slowed down, that you can lock them up. Whether they get that over time or not, they will die because they have to go through this ultimate. And so he just holds it and says, where do you want to go? What are you going to try to do? If you insta-fire that to block off one initial area, then you're going to see them, like they did, rotate around. Instead, holding onto it there, just making life as unfortunate as possible for this Terminus. So far has pretty much been this game. Unfortunately for Tempest team, they haven't had as solid a grip, I think, as they want, because those are the kills they're getting. It's all from this Canessa, and there hasn't really been enough from the Bomb King. It's been good zone control, but no big pop-offs yet.
No, I mean, it has not been a ton of value for it, and Ganji kind of started them off, I think, about as well as you could reasonably expect from your Canessa, and still they couldn't really turn that into much more, as Fatal Ambition now getting a little bit stalled out here on their push. Redemption finding 1 kill on the ground for headed falls as well, and that should be enough for Tempest to stall this offense for a bit, especially taking care of PS1 here, getting a couple stagger kills, sending them all back, should be the full wipe. Doubt this con will be able to survive. So good work here by Tempest to slow this down a little bit and hold on here, Gore, but I agree. I don't know if they've quite gotten enough out of this Bomb King, at least back in their mid-fights, in terms of making sure that it's a little bit more difficult for Fatal Ambition to force their way in.
Man, this is one of those games, and I'm just going to have to say this outright. I love that Tempest find themselves a defense, but nothing is unimpressive to me as defense on Ice Mines, right? Like, it's like, cool, you did what the map is designed to let you do. Let's see what you can do. It's holding them off here for the next 40 seconds, and then coming into the next round with just a huge splash. They've got King Bomb. Soon enough, they're going to have Headhunter. With 30 seconds left in the game, I don't want to see either of those used. I mean, at this point, your best case scenario is a 1-1. Your worst case scenario is you get comeback mechanic on Ice Mines, which is going to be easy. But it's so difficult to deal with Fatal Ambition in this state. All you could do is either pull out some of their ults or get some kills like this.
Well, this is where we're seeing some of that Bomb King value, huh? As he is able to unseat PS1 there in the backline. Nice damage with the BK from range. And at this point, right, this should be enough. You can basically see Fatal Ambition all the way pushed out. Tempest team having pretty good control here at this point, too, so there's really not a whole lot realistically one would expect from this one. Overtime starting to tick down. Grounded was just removed. PS1 does get 1 kill, but it doesn't really open things up much more. So as you would hope, they come into this one 1-1. They have the ultimates there for them as well, but Fatal Ambition have quite a few as well. They don't have Seismic Crash, but Barrage should be able to do plenty of good work for him here as well. So they're not coming in here feeling bad.
Between Barrage and Crossfire, just those two alone, you're going to just shatter that Terminus's dreams. And I look over at Insane, I missed whenever he popped it, or if whether or not he's even been able to get it. 66% right now charged on his ult. It's not really where you want to be as a Terminus. You want that charged going into the mid-fight pretty much more than anything. It's either the mid-fight or the end of the push. Those are the only 2 points where it really does matter and feel impactful. So not having that, especially with Atlas not having too much, makes them easy targets for Fatal Ambition to burn down those 2 tanks, which, again, drives me back to this Bomb King. I think I'm going to come back to him every time until he has some insane triple kill moment. But this King Bomb has to be the best ult he's had, well, I guess today, but just all phase.
This is perfect, though, taking care of the Canessa early on from RC Soldier. What a way to start this fight off there, Core, as we're able to get the early advantage. PS1 is the one that cleans up the kill, but RC Soldier not done yet. Helping Headed find the kill. Great response there from Redemption, though. That at least takes care of the con, but at this point, how much does it matter? Complete control over to Fatal. The Barrage being used to further push them back, and the Whirlwind there in answer from the Grover. Good job making sure they don't get pulled up, but the King Bomb, Core, virtually wasted. I think you wanted a bit more than that from the ultimate as Gonchi does make his way back in, takes care of Roopson, and Fatal Ambition have to drop off at 57%.
That's unfortunate because I really do want to talk about the good the Tempest team are having right now, but I really wanted to talk about the great that Groundford just did on Anara. I mean, a good Seismic Crash around the corner linked up with a Barrage, and the minute that you start hearing some ults charged up to come around the corner, he just throws up a great wall to block everybody off. It's just Anara plays like that. That's why I love what she can bring. And it still didn't slow down Tempest's team enough, but I think just on his own, he bought himself time. We only have a few seconds to get back in there and try to get the touch for overtime, though.
No, this is a great retake from Tempest. You're exactly right, and they do not allow for Fatal Ambition to make their way back in. So how back and forth has this Ice Mine spin already, Gore, as you would expect from 2 teams virtually tied, deadlocked in the standings. Some nice kills coming through here for Tempest as well, so they might even be able to chain this into a decent offense. Somehow, Roopson able to turn that one around into some kind of trade for them as the kill ends up going the way of PS1, but Zupiro finally closes him off, and they can keep this card moving. Not a ton of value done on the backup. I feel like in Ice Mines, you can often do a little bit better than this here, Gore, as they're getting stalled out already.
And this is probably one of the best retakes into great starts you can have for a push. They do lose Bomb King, which is always going to make things shaky for me. I think Bomb King's just so stellar on this map. And right now, Canessa doing a good job, really good headshots. There's not a lot of good angles for you around this corner, and really the next corner as well. It's just difficult to find something that's going to give you long range where you're not having that happen to you, right? Where Victor just decides to take your life away and cause you so much trouble. And so this is going to be that moment where I think Bomb King has to kind of be the breacher for the team to break them forward just a little bit. I think Kinessa can find some good angles, and honestly, I expect to see a cute shot that will open things up. But unless you have something to significantly reduce the grip Fatal Ambition have on this corner, you might just be hanging out.
Yeah, they'll probably have to wait for a little bit as they did just lose the Terminus. This has been good damage, though, from Gonchi this whole fight, though, so far, has it? Really, this whole game, this Kinessa has looked good. Just kind of been wanting it to have a little bit more backup. It got it on that mid-fight, and they've been looking better, but headed gets the double. RC Soldier and Groundford are there. This will be a full wipe in favor of Fatal Ambition to further stall this offense from Tempest. So as you said, the retake was good. They looked as though they might be poised for a decent bit of offense, but they have gotten stalled here, Gore. They've not been able to move this cart really at all.
And it's at 45%, so I guess there's something, but I really do want to say, like, I don't know if Insane's ults are hitting the mark I want from a Terminus ult. Like, if you reanimate and then die again, your Terminus ult was wasted at any point. If you didn't really gain anything from it, it's still kind of wasted. Unless you use it in like an overtime situation or you're using it to finalize a push that has been going your way. I just like holding on to it, so I feel like against everything else, every other ultimate I say you can use when you have it. Most of the time it's not going to hurt you. Termult is the one that you want to hold on to it until it's absolutely necessary. And I feel like that's going to make the difference here. Again, coming in, got a pretty good percentage on it going into this round, but if it's not available immediately, that might end up causing some trouble for Tempest team if Fatal Ambition can focus down the Terminus early.
That's a fat wall, though, isn't it? Making it real difficult to play the Bomb King, trying to move into that Inara. Now, remember how this started for Fatal Ambition last time around here, Corey? It was with a huge overpower from RC Soldier to unseat the Kinessa immediately, and even then, it was not enough for Fatal Ambition. The retake from Tempest too strong. I wonder if that's going to be the same call again here. 5 ultimates on the board for Fatal Ambition, making their way in. 4 for Tempest, and not too far from the reanimate there for Insane. So you gotta think this favors Fatal at least a little bit. We'll come in 2-2. It's even. No one has the fast cap in their corner, and RC Soldier's lining up again like he wants to find an angle, like he wants to find this overpower to start this game off. Shield allows him to move up further forward, realizes some decent damage being put onto the other side, trying to lock him down, but not able to find anything to start out with. It's Groundford who opens it up. Roopson as well as they take care of Insane. Nice little grab to lock down one more member there as well. And Fatal Ambition, with every ultimate except Overpower, have taken over the point.
And it was just good reaction time. I mean, King Bomb comes out. Everybody on Tempest team was trying to drop something to give them an edge. And unfortunately, Fatal Ambition, they waited perfectly. I mean, a lot of their ults, while they can be good initiators, are really great responses to what Tempest team have. I mean, you're starting to roll in with a King Bomb, and let's say a barrage gets dropped on you, or you get slowed down by Corvus, or some sort of damage comes in. All of a sudden, you're not so confident about your ability to get in there. Now Insane, he's left awkwardly to the wayside.
Yeah, this is Ice Mines, isn't it? I mean, it feels like you lose one clean fight and suddenly it's over. There's the overpower, grabbing the Kinessa yet again to give them a better bit of offense. Even some good CC to lock them down, and great healing. RC Soldier kind of doing it all for him. There's the reanimate, though, coming out from this Terminus, perhaps realizing how desperate this situation might be. It's still dying right away. Insane falls. Redemption recognizing he needs to be with his squad, he falls as well. So Fatal Ambition able to force this into a strong offense, now surging forward. PS1 trying to keep the Kinessas from finding any strong angles. Now get this card moving all right. It's 3-2 and they want this conversion.
So I'm trying not to be mean, but that's the exact kind of Terminus ult that I mean when I say that, it's just, what are you doing? Why there? And why then, of all things? Like, your team is dying beside you. Yeah, they're grouped up, so maybe you get some damage, but you're not using this ult for damage. That's just a bonus. You're using it to try and stay alive and still be a tank. So unfortunately, I think it was 4 seconds that they bought. So if they end up, well, winning by 4 seconds, I guess I'll take that. But when that PS1 gets a triple kill in your base, you start to second-guess your ult usage.
Yeah, and he's set up for the 4th kill as well that came under the BK. It wasn't him, but boy did he make it happen. Now this cart is right outside the front door of Tempest with a minute on the clock, with some big ultimates available like this. Corvus one is coming out from roofs and to try and lock them down just a bit more, and boy is that working. Groundford falls up with the seismic crash, and that does get the stun onto Insane behind him. Whirlwind comes out from the Grover, buying as much time as they possibly can, and a couple critical kills are coming through. PS1, RC Soldier, and Headed all go down. Groundford dying on the cart, as Gore likes to point out. Trying to see if he can buy a little bit more time. Perhaps not dying on the cart as he moves a bit further forward, but this should slow Fatal Ambition down.
Finally, again, just getting that breath that's going to keep you alive. And more than anything, I think Whirlwind is really what saves the day there. It's just a certain point where everybody stopped doing damage for a second against Tempest, and they had to pause, and Fatal Ambition had to rethink their approach, because right now it's just kill you faster than you can respond. Now they had a chance to respond, and 13 seconds left. That payload's just close enough that I want to give the benefit of the doubt to Fatal, but this is so hard to break open.
It is, but PS1 with the barrage is able to get rid of the BK yet again. Groundford hunts down Insane. Dars falls as well. And there is the overpower coming through for one more kill as Gonchi ends up going down. This cart's starting to roll right in. The Grover has to come out for a touch. The Bomb King as well, but they both die instantly. Fatal Ambition find the conversion and take care of Ice Mines confidently.
Look, my analysis is starting to sound a little one-note, but just imagine the end of that fight. But instead of waiting 8 seconds to respawn as Terminus, you're still there. That's why I think that ult is so crucial to hold on to, because moments like that, we're still in the game. Maybe you actually find a defense. Granted, with the damage Fatal Ambition we're doing, I don't know that you were going to be able to hold them off much longer, but the concept, I think, is really where the play should be. 4 and 9 for the Terminus, 3 and 8 there for Grover, 2 and 13 for the Atlas. He was the one that I think, going into picks and bans, I was most nervous about. Just didn't seem to all click for Tempest team, even though they had a solid draft. I mean, when it comes down to it, not PS1 and Headed, I think you had said it best, are just going to do insane amounts of damage this game, and they did exactly that.
Look at the Canessa damage, though. 127,000 top on the map. It's just a question of how much backup was there for this Canessa. And I think we noticed that kind of right away in this map, right? That even with Gonchi hitting all these six shots, it felt like he just wasn't getting much backup. They weren't able to find these conversions. They weren't able to find, just like that, much value out of these King Bomb ultimates. How often do you ult in and you're the one that dies, or ult into a wall and get completely shut out? It just feels like they weren't varied enough in their threats, and their front line was getting melted.
Yeah, that's when... well, I guess when they have responses like that. Groundford, again, great ults in retaliation to a King Bomb. I think RC Soldier is maybe an unsung hero. That Canessa got bullied very hard by this con almost every single time his ult was available. It was to get rid of her. And so it's just, when you have all of those moments, I think everything just starts to fall apart a little bit for you. When your front lines can't stand, your DPS has a lot more trouble. When Groundford is getting perfect responses to your King Bomb like that, you're just not going to find the openings you need in order to find a mid that can actually turn into more than that.
Well, it's Stone Keep up next, one of my favorite maps with a lot of different interesting areas to try and talk about, right? Do you see the big battle over in Keep for the high ground? Do you see them moving through Church to try and find some flank routes? Or what is it that ends up happening here on this map? But also, just tons of room for some other picks to come through too. I think this is such a heads-up map. One where there's not a huge way you're forced to play by the map itself. You can kind of get a lot of different stuff done here, Gore. So I think if Tempest are going to bounce back somewhere, perhaps this can be it.
This is probably one of the best maps to be able to control, but it's awkward, Finch. I mean, you lose your map pick, and now Fatal Ambition are going to Stone Keep, where they have decided to try and kind of drive the ship. So it does make me more nervous for Tempest when it comes through. And hey, Bomb King, this is another map that I love him on. King Bomb can be so impactful in the middle of a team fight. You can go up high ground and drop down literally onto the point, almost like your own version of Barrage, which then circles back to how good Victor is on this map as well. Again, a lot of the things that worked on Ice Mines can translate well here. I wouldn't be surprised to see a Fatal Ambition maybe try to scoop up things like the Corvus once again, as well as maybe even their Victor, because it worked so well for him.
Yeah, I also wouldn't be surprised if we see some more flankers here. Did we have any on Ice Mind? I just thought about it. I mean, but things like the Androxus can get a lot more value, I feel like, here on Stone Keep, or some of these other high mobility characters. They can kind of get back behind the enemy line, since there are some areas to do that. There's a lot of options, I feel like, here on Stone Keep. And among those options are Genos and Corvos. They remain unbanned, as does Victor. You already mentioned how strong Mirage is. Anara still out there, a lot of the strong picks. But it's going to be a sniper top pick here from Fatal. They take the Strix right off the bat.
That speaks to me as Fatal Ambition being very sure of their capabilities on this map, right? I think, let's see, Genos, Corvus, theoretically you're not going to lose them both, but you still possibly could. You add in the Victor, with Vivian and Tyra being banned away, all of a sudden you're starting to look at Cassie's maybe having to come through later on for your DPS. I'm wondering what else Fatal Ambition have for us, because they're going to give up a lot of power for this Strix first pick.
Welcome here.
Corvus and Nara, right? That's a pretty good top 2 picks. I mean, maybe you'd want the Genos there instead, but yeah, you're feeling good about this. And they take these top 2... Yeah, they take these top 2 picks, the Corvus and the Anara, and that leaves open this Genos on the backside, right? Which is part of what Fatal Ambition we're considering with this calculation, right? They're probably only going to take one. We could still get the Genos on the back swing, and there's still decent options, right? Even without Anara for your front line as well. So I don't think Fatal Ambition are feeling too bad about it. They even managed to still get the Victor. So I think all things considered, Fatal Ambition end up pretty happy with these top 3 picks.
I think Tempest here, as of right now with these 2 picks, live for a long time on the point. I think Fatal Ambition deals so much damage that any amount of DR you have is just going to extend your life slightly. And so you need something that can deal with the Strix and Victor pretty readily. Xin can, but again, it's always that, do you have what it takes? Like, is it going to be that final hit? Is he going to be able to find those kills consistently enough? He has enough immunity frames that I'm not worried about Xin dying a whole lot. But again, we go back to this Atlas, and I'm still not sold on. I think the hit scan is going to be solid for poking out Strix and Victor, but I don't know that he's going to be the end-all, be-all control that your team really needs there on the off tank. I want, someone that's going to move forward with this Xin and just slam down Strix so that he can't even breathe for a moment. He has no precious time in this game where he can just sit back and be patient, and that's the kind of off tank I want, which is why I love that Europe picks up their Ruckus. So I love that Ashe is banned here, and why I'm surprised we aren't actually seeing more ROM.
Me too, but it's going to be the Barrack solo tank here for them with the Genos there to keep them healthy. And I think that this can work, right? Especially in a world where things like the Tyra and the Vivian are banned out. I feel like chewing through his shield super easily is a bit harder when the Victor, the Tyra, the Vivian are somewhere else. I mean, do you like this Barrack pick? Yeah, I mean, I feel like it could work, especially when you feel like they have to pick a sniper to match your Strix with this last slot, right? You have a good idea of where they're going.
I think Baraka on his own does not make a huge difference here. I think he's going to be able to control the point, and I think he does add in some decent damage, and I think his ult's going to be helpful. But when I'm looking at Fatal Ambition right now, like, if Barrack wins this, I'm going to tell you, unless he's getting triple kills constantly, it's not because of Barrack that they won it, right? It's because they had Andro Victor Strix boosted up by a Luminary, just constantly killing you off. I mean, 4/5 of this team should theoretically just overpower you, and I think Barrack synergizes well with the Genos. He has his own decent self-sustain. The only issue is because that was nerfed, he still doesn't stand up to the Anara the same way, and so Anara is probably going to be able to control the point in a vacuum better than him. But because of everything else surrounding them, I think she's going to have a hard time, and Barrack's going to look great because of it.
Well, Stone Keep for map number 2, and I do wonder if perhaps Tempest are going to feel as though their backline is a bit outclassed here. They're going to need this Zen to really step up here for them. Is choosing to go with that Yomi. I think that makes some sense. It's really only the Barrack you're worried about, right? So no real need to pick up that Guillotine. And they're going to need this Kinessa to do a lot of damage too. They're very reliant on them. Maybe some of that can be built up by this Atlas, but when you're considering trying to match the numbers that an Andro, Victor, and a Strix are going to do, I just don't know that Tempest have come in equipped enough to be able to match it, Cora.
Again, I think their survivability on Tempest is immense. I mean, Dars is going to be hard to kill. Xin, already difficult to kill. Link that together with Corvus, you know, the damage reduction that Insane's going to have on Inara. They're going to be difficult to burn down. The problem is that it takes 3 shots from this Andro to find you.
Okay, well already we got some problems here. The Canessa does get 1 shot off. The reversal is enough though. I think you already put a shot in there, Yanchi. Unfortunate, Insane drops as well. And what was that about the survivability? The Andro cares not as he gets to the back line, finds the double, completely unseats Tempest. Okay, what?
Well, I was kind of thinking, you know, there'd be some other names that maybe came up, but RC Soldier decided that it is a one-man show, and that he's the only one that really deserves to be talked about here. I mean, Victor and Strix haven't had the opportunity to see an enemy at this point, let alone try to get their name on the kill feed enough. Because Andro almost single-handedly now with the barrack up here, they've been zoned out. They're looking like they're on defense already, and that was before the payload was even captured.
Already have the accursed arm coming out as well. Not really a ton of value from that. Groundford does end up falling as headed. Gets the return kill onto the Canessa, make it a double as Dars falls as well. And RC Soldier continuing to have eyes on him. And remember, RC Soldier, I think, was the big hero from Ice Mines as well. His con was nuts. And now here he is, switching over to the Andro. Pretty different, I'd say, from the Con in terms of how they play, but he seems to be doing well on both of them here for Fatal. And look at this positioning that Headed has up top. It's a good thing the Atlas came up to push him off it, because that is a scary place for a Victor to set up shop.
Hey, this is a scary place for, I think, Tempest team to be in right now. I thought this was going to be overwhelming from Fatal Ambition. That's what this draft wants to do to you. But this is even overwhelming compared to what I thought it was going to be. I've seen a lot of Paladins. I've seen some teams that will absolutely just thrash the enemy. And finally they're getting some relapse, but it's just the Andro show. 9 times out of 10, I've watched Victor die, I've watched Genos die, I've watched Strix die, and RC Soldier's still running forward, zoning the team by himself with a little help from Bear.
Hey, your wall's down. It's time for me to start clicking heads again, and that's exactly what RC Soldier is ready to do. Look how close they have the cart. A full minute left to work with. Another accursed arm in the back tank there for Fatal. RC Soldier takes care of the Zen. They also have the Dome Shield, which already comes down. There's the accursed arm to follow up. Headed gets a kill as well. The cart certainly rolls in. A 2-0 for Fatal as they steamroll Tempest through the first 2 points.
I don't even know what to talk about there. I guess 8-0 and 1 Andro, huh? I want to go somewhere else with it, but it's kind of hard considering that's all the round was. I mean, it was Rubson actually having a stellar round as a Genos. Great support. You have Headed dealing a lot of damage coming forward, but the fact that there's somebody is 9,000 damage above a Victor in the game means something. Victor, like, accidentally gets top damage in a game. The fact that RC Soldier is leading in that, it just showcases how much he is accomplishing here, to the point where ults have either already been used by Tempest team or were barely charged up for them. I don't know that Dars has been able to actually get his just yet. And so Gonchi, a Headhunter, it might be your only chance at being able to take down RC Soldier in 1-2 shots.
Well, he fights quite a bit of resistance here in Church this time. RC Soldier must fall back. Meanwhile, on the point, obviously the Barrack Inara exchanging blows. That's going to favor the Inara. No big surprise there. Groundford ends up falling. RC Soldier finally put down as well, and Tempest with that comeback mechanic are on the point and racking up some percent here, Gore. So they might already have this one locked down, depending on how well Fatal Ambition can find that retouch. Barrack can be mobile at times, but just a question of if he's able to force his way through. There it is. Groundford was indeed able to find the touch, but immediately the damage comes his way. Good work, though, to keep the Zen low there in the backline, so Groundford is able to stay standing. Finally gets put down, the overtime starting to tick, and who's next for the touch? It looks like the answer is nobody, and Tempest finally find their way on the board.
Yeah, upsides, downsides of triple DPS. That's the downside. You will lose that point. I was actually surprised. I love that Zupiro was holding onto the Spite as long as it was. Like, Zen, whenever I see a tank in front of me that's half health or lower, I'm throwing my Spite out. Like, 9 times out of 10, I'm just like, I'm going to get this kill now, see what we can do with it in a second. But the patience coming down there, knowing that they had the damage elsewhere, they could deal with the Barrack, and then move forward, I think was a great call from Tempest team to be able to slow down, or not even slow down this game, speed up this game in the right portions, right? Slow down the end of the the mid fight, but start off this payload push much faster. And I'm actually surprised, you know, normally you see someone who's doing really well on a team, in this case it was the Andro RC Soldier, right? And when they die, my mind goes, okay, cool, now somebody else on the team will get to shine. Unfortunately, it feels like Fatal Ambition, Andro got stopped early on, and the rest of the team forgot that they can play at this point. Like, they're playing well, they're holding up well, but it feels like if RC Soldier isn't doing well, it just all slipped through their fingers.
Yeah, the same way that Fatal Ambition steamrolled Tempest to start off this map, it looks like Tempest are doing the Fatal Ambition. When you put this offensive-minded team on defense, they start to flounder a little bit. Into the backline goes RC Soldier, but he gets handled. Ground for trying his best to keep this cart from all the way rolling in, but I think that is a losing effort. Tempest now with the conversion. Suddenly here we are at the 2-2, but I think that their wins are a bit different, Gore. Fatal Ambition won heads up. Tempest won with the comeback mechanic, and I don't know if I consider those equal. I think Fatal Ambition still have a chance to show us here on even ground who can win it.
Geez, you want to talk about a bad round, though. I mean, what was it? 4-1-4 for Headed, now 5-4-4, so 1 and 3 kills, or 1 and 3 for the KD, 0 and 2 there for Roobson, not too far off from what you would expect, but RC Soldier went from 8-0-1 to 8-4-2, just died 4 times and got an extra assist. They really worked to shut down Fatal Ambition that time. But like you said, a lot of it was comeback mechanic and then momentum. I mean, you know, this is one of those maps. Right. The payload push, you know, doesn't normally just swing in your favor like that, but it felt like Ganshi just found out where he needed to be. The same thing for the Sin, got into the right spots at the right time, were able to deal with it. Now that you're on equal footing, it's up to the Inara, who I still think is going to be a little more survivable than the rest of the team.
I don't think I like this from RC Soldier, though. He came church side last time and got stuffed, so he comes church side again and gets stuffed. Even he tries to use the Accursed Arm, but doesn't find really any value from that, so the ability now on cooldown. I feel like you should at least force Tempest to respond to you in a different way. They just stacked church again and answered him when he showed up. I don't know if I really like that way for him to come back into it twice in a row.
Yeah, it's, you know, Fatal Ambition, the first time, everything works out well for you, you go over there. Second time, you get thrashed. Third time, you should change up your strategy. They know where you're going to go, and it seems like RC Soldier got the note now that he should change it up. It might have taken them just a little too much time to get comfortable. 51%. It's that awkward mark. We've already seen Tempest team come retake a point on Ice Mines, so it's not out of the question for him to do it here. That 51% really does enable a squad to just come in and swoop it right out from under your nose.
Looks like some potential lockdown for PS1. It absolutely works. Zen, the one that gets the kill there, but the ultimate from Roobson over the wall does get insane. But the kill feed's lighting up for Tempest in every other conceivable way. Headed falls, RC Soldier falls. Ganshi continues to light him up with this Kinessa last pick. And boy, is it working for them. They've got this midpoint in control. The percentage starting to climb. And where is this retouch going to come from? There isn't one in Tempest to make it 3-2. Can they find another strong offense here, though, or can Fatal Ambition get their defensive feet underneath them this time?
Man, Ganshi had a terrible first round, and then since then has had a phenomenal game. Like, I mean, this Kinessa was almost part of the reason they weren't able to do anything in round 1. And now it's completely turned. I mean, a 17 streak, a lot of the damage that's coming down from here. Really good shots. That one, unfortunately, misses, but you can see where the angles are going to hold true. And this is where snipers start to shine brightest of all. I mean, you have a great leeway right there onto the tank. You can control the high ground with some good shots, but you do have to worry about that Strix constantly, and that's really where the push and pull of this map goes. But as of right now, the kills keep coming up Tempest, so I don't think you're really that worried if you're the Red Squad.
No, not at all. To me, it's just the difference between RC Soldier able to get directly to the back line or not, right? He walked through church, unseated the Kinessa instantly on their first map, or the first round of this map, and it worked. And since then, he's gotten stalled, making his way through. And now Tempest doing the exact opposite of getting stalled, rolling this card all the way on through and daring someone to step through and stop them. The barrage coming out as well from Fatal, so that is forcing them to fall back to defensive positionings. And Headed gets one kill. RC Soldier gets the second. One is answered back. But now they have to deal with this Andro in the back line. He gets rid of Ganshi. PS1 gets a kill on the Dars as well. And so this means now a bit of a slowdown for Tempest. They'll have to reset as Fatal not ready to say goodbye to Stone Keep just yet.
It's just a little bit of awkward timing, though, right? I mean, you still have 40 seconds left. And if that hadn't happened, I think you're in a much better boat. But unfortunately, RC Soldier just six-headed his way back into this game, right? I mean, he thought so far ahead. He's playing 4D chess. The rest of us are still over here on a 2D plane. We don't know what we're doing anymore. Just laying in wait, that's going to buy you enough time to make things awkward. Now, for Tempest team, you have to wait for the respawn and the regroup, and you have to get back in there.
15 seconds remaining.
Great play, agreed there from RC Soldier, who has been the hero, really, for Fatal Ambition. The big difference maker, as far as I can tell, is Redemption's like, hey, buddy, I'm trying to heal you. There he goes, able to find one. RC Soldier pokes his head out, but they recognize that he's there, and they already lost not PS1, so their Strix no longer holding those deadly angles. Headed falls as well, maybe even in overtime, this conversion can happen for Tempest. The kills are coming through, Groundford falls as well. That means now the cart rolls through freely. Ganchi steps forward, tries to stop the Strix from finding a favorable angle. Good repositioning now to find the longest possible sidelines. The kills continue to roll through, and Tempest gets the conversion to find a way to make it 4-2 on Stone Keep. So just like that, Gore, this set's complexion has changed. It looked like a great answer to start this one off for Fatal Ambition, but Tempest bounced back despite that 2-0 start.
I was so sure that was going to go to another mid-fight that I was trying to figure out the ways that the things were going to go wrong for Tempest. I was waiting for something to happen, and unfortunately, well, I guess unfortunately, really, if you're Fatal Ambition or a fan, that's where things really fell apart for them. And when you look at the slash lines, it kind of makes sense. Hey, 14-8, RC Soldier did just about everything you could, although definitely a stellar first round that kind of snowballed into some unfortunate ladder 3. I mean, started to pull it back towards the end, but not really a whole lot. Not PS1, a lot of damage, not a lot of kills. And Headed was kind of right there in the middle between the two. It's just not what you need to see out of your triple DPS. I think on the other side, Ganchi was just a little more consistent as a sniper, found more kills consistently, and just being able to lock him down, it made it a lot easier for Tempest team to continue moving forward.
And it felt like that's why they top-picked that Strix, right? It was because they knew Ganchi actually did have a good game on Ice Mines, even though they lost. So it's like, hey, let's get this Strix, let's match that Knesset presence early, and they just weren't able to do it, man. Ganchi was the better sniper here on this map, and as soon as that blank Andro stopped working out for them as it got stuck in church or couldn't find its way to the back line, it started heavily favoring Tempest, because they also had the better front line. Remember, we talked about that early on too, but Fatal Ambition were reliant on this Barrack to try and hold his own up against an Inara, and it's just never going to work out in that regard. So now we start to look towards map 3 here it goes. Splitstone Quarry is what's coming up here next.
This is where, I don't know, it's just, it does the same kind of concept as Ice Mines, but at the same time, it's a little faster, a little easier to lose than in Ice Mines if one team has themselves figured out. But at this point, I don't know what to say because both teams took the other's map pick. This one, in my mind, being a little closer to Ice Mines means Fatal Ambition are a little more favored at being able to come in and maybe swing this one back in their favor.
I like this, though. Ban that Knesset from Ganchi. It feels as though it's the only thing that's really been consistently working for Tempest, so take it away. And then Fatal Ambition, though, they can basically give RC Soldier whatever they want. The Khan, and he'll dictate how the game goes, or the Andro, and he'll dictate how the game goes, as long as they don't have to deal with those sniper shots. Tempest, on the other hand, respond by also banning away the Strix, so no snipers here, despite a relatively mild game from PS1. The Ash ban as well, as we've seen basically the entire set so far.
Yeah, I'm a little sad about it, if I'm being honest with you. I love Ash, and I love what she can bring. I think she's decent on this map as well, but since she's not even going to be in the equation, it's not much getting into. Vivian has been banned out for a lot of this as well. I think she fits that note just as much as some of these other hit scans. She's just been oppressive. She's difficult to deal with. She's got some good movement speed on her. And even though you would think, hey, there's no dash ability, she doesn't have a leap, any sort of escape, that shield, sentinels, and then just pure damage is enough to keep her safe from most flanks as well. So you can't do much to kill her. So I'm not surprised to see her continually being banned right now. And that does skyrocket one guy more than anybody up to the top. Victor being first pick here, I love it the most. I just want to know which team's going to end up getting Corvus, because he feels like he's controlling just enough of the flow of these team fights.
Yeah, that is interesting. Perhaps it'll be Tempest. They've already picked up the Inara, so you'd think they'd get their choice between the Genos and the Corvus if they want to take their choice. It looks like they certainly will. I'll take the Corvus right away alongside this Inara, and the Inara has looked strong. We've seen some big seismic crashes so far this set. She feels hard to contest to the point we just saw the Barrack try and fail to match that same presence that the Inara has. Fatal will obviously take the Genos in response, but I'm curious if we're going to see them go with another solo tank, or if they do want to get an off tank here for RC Soldier again, something like that Khan we saw in Ice Mines.
Last one standing wins!
Yeah, I would not mind seeing a Khan come through. This is a map I love Khan on just because of what he's able to do. That's Barrack instead that comes up. Again, I will mention that he synergizes well with Genos, and that it can look good. But I will say, if he loses this game, if Fatal Ambition lose 2 in a row, I blame it entirely on Barrack, and it is his fault in my mind, and you can't change that thought for me. If he wins this game, then I guess I'm just biased against Barrack at this point, because I'm going to say it's the victor's reason, the victor's fault that they come through and win. We'll have to see, though. Again, normally I'm looking at these teams at this point pulling in something that's long range, similar to the Victor, but more, Canessa Strix style, since those are banned out and there's no other snipers in the game. I'm wondering if like a Cassie or a Leon is maybe on the table for either of these teams, just to give some of that longer range, kind of easy poke, easy engage.
Darkness.
Oh, it looks like it will be the Androxus again. Gotta think that's going to RC after he played it on Stone Keep to great effect. Those first 2 points they were able to get on the board, and even some value later on, though not quite as much. This is interesting. Also, we're talking about is this Atlas. I mean, I know you and I were both relatively unimpressed with it on Ice Mines, but got better results on Stone Keep. It was part of the reason why PS1 was struggling on that Strix. So, I mean, I think that this Atlas pick makes a bit more sense here for him.
Again, you're looking at someone who, as a hit scan tank, can get a lot of poke damage off onto someone like this Victor, or the Barrack, or the Genos, because they're going to be stationary. It's the Andro and the Buck that are going to be the driving factors for Fatal Ambition. Victor will get them low, they'll have to find the kills. And Leon, she's a good anti-flank. Tyra typically can just burn down anybody who's tanky, and I throw Buck into that category. I think Tempest have good answers for what Fatal Ambition have picked up. It's just the consistency of those answers that's really going to be the biggest question mark throughout the game. How often can this Leon, can this Tyra really shut down the Buck and Andro, and how often are they going to be falling to them on the other side?
Well, it's split stone for map 3, and I like Fatal Ambition finding a bit of a compromise between the solo tank and running the double front line. It is this Buck, this other sort of beefy presence that can move around the map and cause problems, but he will need to keep both this Tyra and the Leon on check, or else the pick not completely going to be worth it. Gore, exactly how do you see this first point here going?
Burst mode Victor's going to get a lot of damage. Andro, if he's unanswered, Headed is just going to, slam his face on his keyboard and still find a lot of kills. It's just going to be, it's going to be up to these tanks to maybe make the difference. Barrack, again, is going to just have trouble going toe-to-toe with Inara right now. But he does have a little more damage output, so he might be able to help control the side fights a little bit better than the point fight.
We'll get our look at it. We'll be Headed piloting this Androxus here for this time, perhaps RC on the Buck instead. As the ground for recognizes the Inara a bit low over to the side, but he on his own not going to be able to isolate that kill. But with the Inara around the corner trying to heal, that means this is a bunch of cap time in favor of Fatal Ambition. It is RC Soldier on this Buck here. Instead, locks down Superior, who had a great game on the Zin, but not as much luck, at least starting things off here on the Leon this time around. 81%, making 84, as this Inara has not found her way back to the point, and it won't start here. RC Soldier right behind her with the shotgun laying waste. Dars does get the one kill on the PS1 in response, but Headed answers back as Gauchi falls. Another one as Redemption falls as well. That will be the midpoint win for Fatal Ambition, but we've seen them storm out of the gates quickly, get the first point, and struggle afterwards. So let's see how they keep this momentum going.
Yeah, it's all about the retakes for Tempest so far. Even though it didn't get them the win on Ice Mines, I think that actually came down more to poor ult usage than anything else. I think everything else that Tempest did on Ice Mines pretty much hit the mark they needed to in order to control the flow of the game. And they even had some sick retakes that came through, I think, on round 2. Then we saw it again there on Stone Keep, so it's not too surprising to see them maybe trip up at the beginning of the round, but then utilize their ults or just their team fight a little bit better than Fatal Ambition does and turn it around. So even now, the fact that it looks like it's about to be a 2-0 because they're still marching forward, still getting kills, I'm trepidatious to give any commends to Fatal Ambition because of the fact that they have been tripping it up in the lead before.
exactly right. They got the 2-0 on Stonekeep. It looked a lot like how this map is looking. Hello, did you expect Groundford to be there? Well, maybe Groundford didn't expect you to be there. Insane and the boys push the Barrack off of his positioning. RC Soldier still hiding inside mines to some extent, but hey, you've been caught by the Atlas and pulled back. And right there to complete the kill is Zupiru working on that Leon. So Fatal Ambition will now have to find the reset, it feels like here, Gore. Gonna have to regroup before they can try and push again. But they have a lot of time on the clock, a lot of ultimates if they're willing to expend them to try and make this push work.
They're holding, again, a decent angle. Every time I want to look at what Fatal Ambition can do and how well they've been playing, I feel like something can fall apart. I really wish that snipe had come through as well. They're dropping a lot of ults here. The kills are coming up for Tempest instead. Buck, I think, still alive right now. Maybe one of the only ones to try and do anything. It doesn't look like this push is going to quite go the way it was earlier. I mean, they were getting, what, 3 kills, 4 kills in a row. Almost looked like there was no resistance whatsoever. So good on Tempest team to not only slow them down, but force their ults out of them as well, and make sure that you can hold on for the next 20 seconds with minimal issues.
It's a pretty favorable position for Tempest to be in right now. They could be going into the mid-fight with 4 ultimates available and the 1-1 scoreline. Gotta be best case scenario, but PS1 has a different story to tell. RC Soldier is right there with him, setting up that double. The Inara up front, sitting on the cart, is still plenty healthy, but they're just killing everyone else except the Inara. Zupiru falls as well. Now Insane goes down. Growper gets the last bit of damage as RC Soldier comes forward, but they still have so much distance to cover. It feels like coming around this final corner with the cart, the overtime ticking all the while. But perhaps Fatal Ambition could force out some ultimates here to still make this worth it. As Up to the Sky goes headed, considering though he's using the Accursed Arm as well as the Barrage. They want this conversion here, Gore, but no kills come from it. Even still, the Inara is still standing in the backline, somehow healthy. But the cart continues to roll. The kills finally come through, and Fatal Ambition find the conversion.
I mean, that was RC Soldier with a triple at the very end. Again, it's making me wonder. I think Headed and Not PS1 are insanely good players. But where they're showing up in some of these, you know, double kill for Not PS1. I saw Headed's name popping up quite a few times. Yeah, 6-1 and 9 for RC, 7-2 and 2 for Not PS1. Headed at 4-1 and 8. That's a good round for all of your DPS. But I again have to wonder, is Headed going to just run straight into his death the way that we saw RC Soldier do it? Or even worse, is RC Soldier going to do it 2 games in a row? I think pump the brakes a little bit if you're Fatal Ambition at the beginning. React to Tempest team because they have all 5 ults. Leon with her ult available is an easy way to counter flanks. There's a huge amount of burst damage, plus that refund means that you can just do it again a few seconds afterward. And so I like the slow roll. Just wait a little bit before you decide to commit fully to any one strategy.
Good Corvus healing coming through because Ganchi was in trouble. There's the Leon ultimate. Maybe we don't have to talk so much about it as RC Soldier trying to get the better here of Zupiru. Good use of the mobility, and he has the health lead, just doesn't have the shots. Finally is able to put Zupiru down. I'm sure his head will be on the desk as he thinks about how that fight went for a little while. Roopson trying to cap roll for Fatal Ambition. Remember, Tempest have the comeback mechanic in their quarter here, Gore. So they don't need to win these fights as cleanly to still be able to take them in.
That 1v1 was so awkward that Andro got the kill from elsewhere on the map to make sure it ended. But I think it's still even better for them. You know, you pull off a Leon ult, she doesn't get the refund on it, she doesn't really get anything out of it.
Nope.
And now you're able to control this mid-fight. But again, you know, 39 to 50%, that comeback mechanic works wonders, especially with an Inara. Curious ult from Roopson, but either way, it's just buying them time on the objective that's uncontested.
Ooh, Zupiru with a good job moving around, finding this kill onto RC Soldier. Getting rid of him is always worth it. Feels like we're getting a run back here for Ganchi in the same position, getting healed up by the Corvus and desperately needing it. And you're seeing that comeback mechanic work here for Tempest. They never really won any big clean fights here in the mid, but they are the ones capturing the mid point. As the Accursed Arm for Headed coming out freely, that does lock down Dars, and it is going to stall this offense out a bit, especially if Headed can get back to safety and live.
I feel like we're just watching what feels like Stone Keep, but different. Like, you know, it's a different map, different champions, but the same story so far that's going on. Although definitely not working out as well this time for Tempest team, that it looks like they're going to find themselves a 2-0 in retaliation. You know, Stone Keep, they just kind of ran that payload down faster than some teams have ever run it down. And granted, when you are met with little resistance like Fatal Ambition put up then, it's going to make it a little easier for you. But this time around, I love that Fatal Ambition not only are fighting back, but I mean, they're locked in their base. If you were watching this with no context, this looks like Fatal Ambition are pushing the payload forward, and they just forgot to stand on it. This is a defense. They're just inside Tempest team's base for funsies.
An aggressive zone from Fatal Ambition, but one that is working well for them. RC Soldier pulled back in by the Atlas and ends up working with the Leon there to back them up. So Tempest team might finally get a chance to consider being on offense, having earned their way back towards mid, and now finally starting to get this cart rolling. But there's still quite a few difficult choke points to worry about, and I think this works a bit better for Fatal Ambition without the Barrack having to hold all the responsibility. Well, perhaps poor timing there as Dar is able to find the damage and ground for falls, so the Barrack will hold no responsibility, at least for the next 5 seconds. But Headed gets the return kill. That should slow Tempest down even further more and allow for this Barrack to get back into position.
That's always unfortunate. Once Barrack gets into position here, again, as much as I feel like me and Kresnik tend to give him some trouble, he does still hold on pretty well. He's just not the best of the best as he used to be, you know, and I think Groundford has been doing justice here, holding onto the Dome Shield. They only use Buck Wild with 30 seconds left, again, right outside their base. I anticipate this going well for the rest of the round for Fatal Ambition, unless they just catastrophically slip, fall on their own sword, and also manage to somehow not respawn. I don't think they're going to be watching themselves get tied up 2-2. So they get the advantage going into the next mid. They have 4 ults available, and that's going to be matched pretty easily by Tempest team. In fact, I'd say even past, because it looks like Atlas might even be able to charge his up before the round ends. If not, it'll be back right as they start to clash towards the end or beginning of next round. But it's up to this Buck right now. I mean, 43%, he's the one playing catch-up. So they're going to have to hope for it. And also, I said, you know, barring catastrophic failure, things would not go too poorly for Fatal Ambition, but they already died once. Now this payload's moving in overtime.
It is, but not PS1 steps out to alleviate your tension there, Gore. This Inara not going to be able to buy enough time, does end up falling, and Fatal Ambition get the defense. And I almost wonder if that works against them, because the Buck gets like twice the ultimate charge I think he would have otherwise. They killed him at a really perfect time when he was at like 23% and wouldn't get a chance to charge it up. But now he's at 81, pretty close to having all 5 ultimates here for Fatal, and they're on the 3-1.
And I would actually argue for RC Soldier it might be a little bit better to have it delayed, because he hadn't been using it at the very beginning of the round anyway. So now you're forced to wait to use it until you would normally. And unless something absolutely lines up for you, I don't see it causing too much pain for your team. But those cauterizes coming online, 4 of them on both sides. But I think it's going to end up hurting Groundford most of all. His self-sustain is not too strong, so when there's cauterize on the other side, it almost, you know, becomes virtually nothing. With all of them being caught 2s, a couple of caught 3s there even for Tempest. As long as they're focusing on him, it'll cause a lot of trouble. It's also going to hurt RC Soldier. His ability to just run in and kind of face tank a bunch of damage, heal it off, and then go right back in isn't going to be as easily accomplished here. So maybe Roopson having to put in extra work to make this turn into a win.
Another ultimate there from Roopson doesn't get a ton of value. There's the Buck Wild. You said he usually saves it and gets great value. Take care of Dars and Insane and Zoop Hero. Huge fight there for Fatal Ambition as they get rid of a backliner and the front line for Tempest team. Make it a full wipe, as that's all 5 members in grayscale. Fatal Ambition can now get forward for an aggressive zone. Headed will be the one heading off that aggressive zone into position. Tempest team know they're going to have to push through this in one fell swoop. They want to find a touch. Maybe not quite the grenade PS1 was looking for there, as the Inara makes her way through, but she's got to take a ton of damage to find any kind of touch. 99% for Fatal Ambition. They still have the accursed arm in the back pocket. They still have this Buck in the back line, causing problems for this Corvus and not letting him get the heals off. RC Soldier completes it. The Inara falls as well. The overtime starting to tick down, but it's a desperate touch coming through for Tempest. Not going to be enough. Fatal Ambition with a dominant last mid-fight. Take care of Splitstone.
And again, I mean, being able to swing forward with just such a powerful surge of aggression and what feels like little response from Tempest team. It makes me wonder where things went wrong for them in Stone Keep. You know, I feel like this could have been a 3-0 for them, especially if the round 1 from Stone Keep had continued. 15-3, 16-4, 13-4. They had great slash lines, really good team synergy. I think things just got out of hand there on Stone Keep. But I also think that Tempest team have been giving them a lot of trouble. It's just the consistency of that trouble, right? You know, sometimes they're having stellar moments, and sometimes we go back to that 1v1 that we don't want to talk about, right? Either way, you're going to find yourself in a position where, you know, maybe things are going perfectly your way if you're Fatal Ambition, but sometimes one slip-up is enough to give Tempest team that open door. It's just the awkwardness of Tempest team trying to make it work more often for them right now.
Yeah, it really wasn't working for them, and I felt like the big difference there was that they were not able to match the mobility of a Buck Andro backline. I mean, that's nasty, right? Their ability to sort of get back there and disrupt what Tempest team were doing. You saw in that last mid-fight, the Corvus couldn't breathe, man. He was like, "Can you leave me alone for a moment?" And the answer was no from RC Soldier on that Buck, caused him so much trouble. And I wonder if Tempest team are going to have to make that adjustment. I mean, on Stone Keep it worked. They dealt with just the Androxus, and then they were able to have the better sort of stand and fight team, but with the Buck and the Andro, they just couldn't match it.
Yeah, I think there's something to be said about Leon and even Tyra's ability to counter some flanks by just slaughtering them, but they can't really get away from them that easily. I mean, Leon has that capability a little bit easier than the Tyra, but there's a reason Tyra shines brightest on maps like Jag Falls, on, you know, your Bright Marshes, where the Firebomb is going to be very solid, as well as the fact that you aren't stressed about your low mobility. Here on a map where verticality almost means everything, you're getting chased down pretty much every step of the way.
Yeah, and it doesn't hurt when in those moments where the Leon needs to deal with a flanker, not everything is landing, right? So it wasn't the best map on Split, so perhaps they could put it behind them. And we'll take a real quick break. We'll be right back with more Paladins Pro Circuit after this. Welcome back to the Paladins Pro Circuit. We are right smack dab in the middle of the Battle of the Bottom here in Brazil. Fatal Ambition and Tempest team have been going back and forth here so far. Gore, RC Soldier has really stood out to me with the performance that he's had so far, not PS1 as well. And Tempest, they got to step up as we get ready for this next map.
Yeah, I think it's going to be, I want to say interesting for Tempest, but now that I see it's Frog Isle, I just foresee one team slaughtering the other. I don't know which way versus the other. I'm personally leaning a little more towards Fatal Ambition, especially after what we've seen this set. I think they've been more consistent. But this is one of those maps that, man, if you go 3-3 on this map, And it almost feels like things are just going too awkward. Like it's just everybody's killing everyone moment, as opposed to one team just outright winning. And so unless Tempest come out of the gate just guns blazing on this one, I feel like Fatal Ambition might be able to just end it here.
I'm a bit surprised to see Tempest as the team that's banning out the Kinessa here. I don't know. I feel like they're the ones that have had the great Kinessa play, especially heading into a map like Frog Isle, where we're going to be seeing the sniper battle happening as well, one would assume, if they don't all get banned away. So I don't know. We'll see how this one ends up going once they get onto it. But it feels like a map where you're able to get the aggressive zone put out there, Core. The Atlas getting banned away by Tempest, too. They're banning their own picks at this point.
The question is whether or not Strix will show up down there. Or not, and he's available.
Wow.
So if you ban Kinessa, in my mind, that almost immediately means you're supposed to pick Strix when he makes it through. So, do you do it if you're Tempest team? How confident are you? I mean, the last time we saw a team first pick Strix, they lost pretty tragically. So I'm wondering if that's going to be helpful here for Tempest or not. A little bit of stress, I think, riding on this. Again, there's so much that's available. Vivian, notably not banned away. Maybe this isn't her best map. Again, like, good map for EVs, good maps for Maves. But she still can hold her own against them, so I'm almost surprised to see her go second instead of first pick, considering how much we see her valued.
But I think this makes sense. I think so far Tempest has shown us that they have the better sniper when it comes down to it, right? The Kinessa play from them has been excellent, so I can't imagine the Strix play will be much different. The Vivian and Nara, though, is a pretty nasty combo on the other side, especially with Corvus and Genos both still out there. I think if you're Fatal Ambition, you can feel pretty comfortable that one of them will be able to make their way to you on those next round of picks. So go ahead and lock in your front line and your back line damage, and know that you still have some flexibility to grab your flanker a bit later, plus your support, and you should still be in an excellent spot. I like the way that Fatal have so far played this. Same for Tempest. I think they've kind of had to go this way. They take the Strix, they take their pick between the Corvus, Genos, and they're feeling pretty good.
I really like Vivian and Nara. You can grab Genos here alongside somebody. I wouldn't mind seeing something like a Mave or an Eevee. I don't know how much these teams like to pull that out. I believe Fatal Ambition, if I remember from Phase 1, a lot of these players are on, or not a lot of them, some of them are on controller for them, so that does maybe temper what they're going to be able to bring out. And I'm actually kind of surprised to see the Nando. I look at Ashe on the other side, and I think that she's going to get paired up with a really strong flank, and they're going to try to control ramp. I don't know that Nando screams defense to me, although his shield is nice, massive, along with Vivian's shield. I don't think they're going to have to worry too much about getting flanked.
No, perhaps not, but there's just so many different places you could post up and try and take down that Nando's shield. But he's strong on this map, it can feel like at times. I mean, I doubt he'll be the one doing the point tank responsibilities. He'll very likely be pushing alongside one of these other two to try and set something up. As Tempest now round out their draft with an Ashe Terminus. Ashe has been permabanned this set, but now going to be able to be that double front line alongside the Terminus. These are both really strong drafts, I'm thinking, here coming into this last Frog Isle map here, Core, but only one side has the Strix, and no Genos either. It's going to be the Ying coming in for Fatal Ambition.
Huh. So, Ying's ult is press E, and theoretically you win, right? I mean, you're getting 600 healing a second. It's ridiculous in the middle of a fight to have that influx of health. But I don't know that that's going to mean much. I mean, Tyra just crossfires and ignores you then. She just burns down. Once Kata's online, I think she could still feasibly kill off someone that's not a Nara. A Nara with her DR, ability to soak up healing, and a Ying ult is virtually unkillable. So you ignore her and go for everybody else. I think the Cassie and the Ying, even the Fernando, they might be a little more risky compared to what we've seen in the meta lately, but at the same time, they all feel very Frog Isle, and I think it's going to work incredibly well throughout all of this. So, you get some hit scan damage, albeit probably just a little bit. From the Ying, you're going to get good range and damage from the Cassie. I think this is something that could work out really well for Fatal Ambition.
I think so, too. Coming here into this next map, it'll be Frog Isle for map number 4, and all the advantage going the way of Fatal Ambition. Now, I believe the picks and bans were flipped here, as it's Tempest.
Yeah, the teams were.
The Fernando, yeah, so that's exactly right coming into this one. And it makes more sense, right? Fatal Ambition, we're banning away Tempest's picks a little bit, and I think that makes a little bit more sense. So I'm right there with you on this one. So it's interesting. I'm right there with you. I think that this is one where Fatal Ambition have a lot that they could try to prove here with this Strix in the backline. The Ash Terminus working for them as well. So I'm excited to see how this works. It looks like we're going to be moving right into it, as we're already into this mid-fight as well. PS1 set up with a decent position with the Strix as well to try and find some long-range snipes. It's ground for battling on the point up against this Inara, and so far the Inara struggling a little bit. First blood goes the way of PS1 as well, as the Cassie starting to struggle. Groundford fully's insane off the point, and Fatal Ambition come out of the gates roar.
Well, I'm happy to see at least one thing did ring true, and that was that as much as I like Ashe on this map, I think it's going to be difficult for RC Soldier to find a good path up there. I'm kind of upset they didn't necessarily go something that pairs well with it. Tyra might be able to march over there and deal some damage, but this is where flanks come true. I mean, this is why you used to see Zen, Eevee, Maeve. I keep harping on the same three. That's because you put one good off-tank in front of them, you go over to ramp, and then you're just a two-man onslaught on Frog Isle. You have no answer for it, and it makes it a lot easier. Right now they're trying to bounce it forward. It looks like even Corvus trying to get a little bit of input over there. And as long as that Fernando is taken down in time, they don't seem to be met with too much of an issue.
No, they really have not. They've been able to handle him. PS1 has gone largely unchecked in the back of the fight as well. Headed, the one that gets a bit of damage to take care of Insane, and Fatal Ambition will win the first mid-fight here on Frog Isle, and they've had all the aggression so far with this Ashe getting into the backline to start playing Disruptive with all this damage on the backline from this Strix as well. And Dars can't put his head out there, man. It's risky for him. He's taking so much damage as soon as he shows his face.
Yeah, it's difficult, I think, at this point. Again, Frog Isle, it's a map that absolutely can... Oh, they can just run you down, man. I mean, they can absolutely cause you... I don't even know how to describe it other than... immense amounts of distress. This map can 4-0 in the blink of an eye, and it seems like it's going that way. I mean, Inara's 10 seconds out from anybody else, but the tanks are gone. You're going to get a lot of easy progress here. What's Ying gonna do? Die on you? Like, she can't do anything on her own, so you really have to be careful how you aggress into this. Unfortunately for Tempest team, it loses them time.
It does. And Fatal Ambition are right outside the doorstep. No one getting in close for a touch. The Inara has to make her way in, but Insane can't do it. Fatal Ambition open up yet another map with the 2-0 start. Everyone on the team streaking coming into this one, and they're just barreling over Tempest. Dars can't get his positioning set right. He dies too quickly. Insane is left isolated on the point. They're struggling here, Gore.
Yeah, that's the best way to describe it. I think it's not PS1. He's going to be able to hold a lot of angles. I think we're starting to see a little bit of why Ashe has been banned away for a lot of the set. I'm actually starting to question the Barrack ban more than anything, because RC Soldier has been performing exceedingly well on DPS picks. Now you give him a tank that can do a lot of the same in terms of progress, at least in terms of zoning, maybe not kill potential. But then you also give him double the health bar to do it, and I feel like that's just bad news for anybody that's on the receiving end. Now with an assert dominance as well, it just feels like they're going to be able to hold on to the point a little bit better than anything this Nando is going to be able to bring on the other side.
That's how it's felt so far. It is Tempest out to the point here first. RC Soldier, though, makes it over towards this Viva and almost gets what he was looking for. There's the assert dominance, though, off the point, and PS1 capitalizes with the double kill. Now, the problem is Tempest have racked up the percent. They're at 74 with that comeback mechanic, as Fatal Ambition do win the first mid-fight. It's a 3-0 in their favor. And they're even able to push forward and get a few more kills. Headed is able to take care of Zupiru on this Cassie. They've got the Terminus up here, the Strix as well. Everyone on the team is pushed up for the aggressive zone. They know they basically have to win it here, because if Tempest get another touch, they're going to rack up the percentage, trying to force their way through, but so far not able to find it. This is a great zone. The Fernando's going to be the one to force his way through. We'll use the Immortal to necessitate a touch at this point, but Headed gets the kill on him before he even gets there. They're finally able to contest 81% now for Tempest. The overtime ticks in favor of Fatal.
I don't want to give him trouble, but right now it's not PS1. He's just having trouble landing shots, but a great one there to return onto the Ying. They're getting pressure onto this Vivian. With Nando gone and the Immortal used, more importantly, I think it's going to make it a lot easier, but they don't have enough damage to burn through this Inara just yet.
They certainly don't, especially not with this Nando here as well, but they're just taking care of everyone else. Insane falls, so does Dar's Fatal Ambition get the midpoint, and they continue to push. I wonder if they're getting enough healing from this Ying at this point here, Gore. I wonder if that's part of the problem too. Remember, Genos was on the table still.
I mean, being able to get forward, I'm still surprised, like you said, Genos was on the table. But when you have Corvus,
60K.
it's maybe not too surprising to see come through. The healing, yeah, it doesn't seem to be impactful. There's going to be an illusory rift, but I mean, Finch, that's just going to buy you time. It's not going to help you too much. You maybe can get a retaliation kill, which they do on RC Soldier, but I don't know if that's the end-all, be-all. It's a pause, which is honestly what Tempest need more than anything right now, so maybe used appropriately there. But geez, that payload is already halfway there. They've got 1:40 left on a map like Frog Isle. You sneeze in the wrong direction and Tempest team goes down.
You're exactly right. I mean, this is one of those maps where the cart does not have a long distance to travel to get that conversion. So Fatal Ambition, no, they don't have to win much to get this one in. The Inara, though, with the seismic crash, recognizing that the Ashe is grouped up there on the side, but they didn't have the damage to kill her quickly. PS1 removes the Vivian, though, elsewhere with that Strix damage. That means Tempest team have to start falling back a bit. Headed gets rid of Dars. Insane now, the only tank still standing and doesn't have a healer anymore to get rid of the Ying. That means Insane falls right behind them. PS1 and Headed are putting so much damage onto Tempest team they can't even step out of their base at this point. As now Headed has the shielding, is able to step forward and find some more damage. 55 seconds left, but I don't think Fatal Ambition are worried about the timer. It's Tempest team that are pressed, worried if they can find someone to step out and get the touch. Insane is there, puts down the wall to buy a little bit of time for themselves, but PS1 comes up onto the rock, finds the high ground. Headed gets the double kill. Fatal Ambition get the conversion. 4-0 on Frog Isle as they run over Tempest.
I was surprised when we came into this to see the fact that Fatal Ambition weren't in the top 4, and even more so, weren't even winning so far out of all of them. Both of these teams came in at 0-4 with -11. So I'm not surprised to see Fatal Ambition be the ones that pull ahead, just based on track record from what I've expected out of this team. But I need that versus some of these other top teams as well. I mean, that was a stellar Frog Isle. They had a really good Splitstone and a really good Ice Mines. A little bit shaky there on Stone Keep, so maybe we'll have to get back into that and provide some notes. But otherwise, I think the draft here went exceedingly well in their favor. That's where Tempest team really seemed to struggle pretty much all day, was trying to find the draft that seemed to fit everything they needed. Going for the Inara and the Fernando, especially against something like the Strix, you didn't have anybody to dive back there and cause trouble for not PS1. And so not PS1 was just free-firing most of the time, and I think that ended up paying off much more heavily in Fatal Ambition's favor than they could have anticipated.
Yeah, I mean, I thought the difference was the healing, but the Ying was there for him. The difference was a 30,000 damage gap between the top damage dealers on each side. PS1 did so much more damage than was done by Tempest from their best member that gap couldn't be covered back up, man. That's where they were able to just storm right over them. As you mentioned, PS1 largely unchecked. Headed was right behind him, though, on this tire, providing plenty of damage for them. And there's a lot of questions, right? There are a lot of tanks available for them. I just don't know that the Nando had to be the pick here. It felt like he struggled, but I don't even know if we can put it on the front line. Maybe it's just the back line. They didn't have enough damage there for him, though, Corey. Either way, Fatal Ambition get their first win of the phase here so far. Improved to 1-4. Tempest team continue to struggle.
And now it's, the question, Tempest still trying to just find their first win over the next few weeks of the phase. But for Fatal Ambition, you're starting to look upwards. You look at Carnage Gaming, you see they're 2-2. There's someone that you can punch towards. In Control, in Ignite, I mean, they're both 3-1. Maybe a little more difficult to try and take them down, but they're the kind of teams that you're now looking forward to try and beat if you're Fatal Ambition.
Yeah, all that has become a little bit more realistic for that Fatal Ambition team as they start to slowly climb up those rankings. That's going to do it for us here with Brazil, 3-1 in favor of Fatal Ambition. That means the next matchup that we're going into, Prolific up against Snappin' here in North America, should be an equally exciting one to look forward here to. Gore. North America has been a competitive region. It always is, and I love to get a chance to see Snappin' play whenever we can.
Yeah, I'm actually really excited. Again, North America has been topsy-turvy from everything that I've expected coming into this phase, and so this is another one that I think is going to keep me on my toes for how the matchup could go. It is a little on the fence. Snappin' is one of those teams that has had simultaneously stellar games and some not-so-stellar games, so we'll have to see which one decides to show up today.
That's a good point, man. I feel like with Paladins, when you log in, when you load into the server, anyone can win it at any point. It's hard to feel safe. Look at Sanguine and the big shift they've had from Phase 1 and Phase 2. So a lot to watch here in North America. Do not go anywhere. We will be right back with more Paladins Pro Circuit.